Hello. Chainsaw Man chapter 210 came out today, and we are going to go over it. So, right off the bat, the chapter starts with Guru wondering what happened, how she remembered nuclear weapons, and she came to the conclusion that America reinvented it, which is what most people predicted last week. Uh, She then does a peace sign, which is the title of the chapter piece, maybe also alluding to the fact that America having nuclear weapons might lead to potential peace. But more than that, it's if you guys remember, if you guys read Goodbye Eri, it's also a Fujimoto way of showing a character getting a win. He loves the peace sign. Uh, But then Yoru turns the falling devil into her jacket, into her coat, because she now believes that she is stronger than the falling devil, therefore giving her control over the falling devil's being. That being said, I don't know if logically she should be stronger than the falling devil, because the falling devil is still a primordial. The fear of falling is still very nature to all of us. But that being said, it doesn't really matter like what people actually fear. It's more of what Yoru perceives people's fears to be. And with the nuclear bombs being dropped, the moments right after it's dropped, it's probably when people's fear of it are at its peak. So Yoru is stronger than ever before, and she praises America. She doesn't love Denji, she loves America. She does a peace sign for America, she starts speaking American, she abandons her Japanese, and she transforms as she turns the falling devil into her coat. Now, I'm gonna go on a bit of a tangent. If you guys remember the Fujimoto one shot, just listen to the song. Um, in the one shot, he says something along the lines of it's basically like a compilation of like things telling people to not read too deep into the meanings of his works. Maybe people are imagining things that aren't meant to be there, and a lot of fans use it to like dismiss just about every theory, every idea, every mm, connection to Fujimoto's other works, whether it's like his political commentary and whatnot. Even just last week, I had a guy tell me, "Hey, this is made for you." And while I appreciate the comment, I just really dislike the way fans use "just listen to the song" as like a way to like shut down all discussion before it even start. And after this chapter, I hope people like stop using that as a deflection, just a side tangent of mine. But anyways, back to the America glaze. Yoru glazes America. She starts singing the national anthem. And she transforms. For a second, I thought she was going to, because a few years ago, Fujimoto did a his version of Captain America with this year. So for a second, I thought Yoru's transformation was going to be a lot more drastic than it really is. But turns out she just reverted back to her school uniform for the most part, with a bit more frills on it. Um, she also starts singing the national anthem. She puts her hand over her chest, as we all did. Side tangent number two. Despite being an American and living in America for most of my life, I can't remember past the first line of the national anthem. So, like, I remember the whole, oh, say, can you see? And then I genuinely can't remember the second line. But yeah. Anyways, she salutes the flag, she prays America. Meanwhile, Denji is brought back to the school from Fami, who sits across from him and asks him to call her Little D. So, side tangent number 3, though, is that in Japanese, in the original Japanese text, it's not actually supposed to be Little D. It's Shi-chan. Shi in Japanese means death. Then chan is like something you use to call like a cute honorific for people. Often you use it for like girls or people younger than you. You have to be close with them. You can't just call like your younger coworker Chan. You might get reported to HR for that. But anyways, I did not like how the translators did took creative liberties on that because I feel that distorts the meaning. While many of us can relate to Little D, it's not the intent of Fujimoto to call her Little D. And here is the tangent of mine, which is I really hate it when official translations use like to get rid of honorifics in exchange for, more Western sounding terms. So with like when Chainsaw Man first got officially translated in 2020, they because I believe it was Manga Stream that used to do the translation, and then the official English Jump Plus took over. They turned Makima-san to Miss Makima, which I guess it makes sense, but it's like not exact. So I really don't like it when the official translations get rid of like the sans, the kuns, the chans, because there's really no equivalent for like honorifics in English or in most other languages, I think. So I feel like most anime manga consumers at this point are probably familiar with like these terms. You don't really need to translate them into whatever you know what I mean? So it's like that's my gripe with a lot of the official translations. It just gets rid of the cultural significance of some of these words because there really is no one for like Chan. But in this case, the little D is like a couple steps more than just like a translation liberty. It's like it made it into like almost a dick joke when it's not. But yeah, anyways, that's the end of the chapter. So some comments from last week's stream. The Gun Goddess did use Soviet Union's portion of the Gun Devil, so that would make sense as to why the US is fighting the USSR. Yes, we went over that briefly last chapter about when Yoru just took the fingers of the Americans for her Gun Devil purposes. Um, yes, because I believe the Gun Devil was trapped in the Russian mountains. Well, actually, that might have been the. My memory for that chapter is a bit out of sync, but there was I think the Tank Devil was in like the Gulf of Mexico base, and then there was the Gun Devil in Russian mountains, and then there's like another Gun Devil in the Statue of Liberty. Although I don't know if that one was also the Gun Devil portion of the America, because the Statue of Liberty should predate America's capture of the Gun Devil, because the Gun Devil was only captured like a few years before the series started. And the Statue of Liberty is like, what, 150 years old at that point? So I don't quite know how that works, but we'll maybe get an answer to that one day. Jonas says, isn't it possible that the Americans just invented nuclear bombs again? Which, yes, they did. Because most of last week's stream was me being unsure if the Americans reinvented it or I think it was like, I thought maybe your subconscious came up with it or like dragged it out back into reality because my hung up on that was that when Pochita eats something, he's supposed to erase the names of the concepts that he eats from everyone's memories. So the fact that like it still has the name nuclear bombs is my issue with it. But regardless, let's see. Next comment. Thinks I think this was the main point of Death Devil's plan. She asked her pawns to make terror, and maybe when there is too much terror, the world, an erased scary devil can be reborn again. Possibly. I need to think about that for a second. But yeah, that's the chapter. Let's see if we have any for today. Let's read the chat. What was I? This felt like classic Chainsaw Man Part 1, even if Denji was out for 95% of the chapter. Yes, this is I think like just a couple pages dedicated to Yoru singing the national anthem, the American national anthem. Sorry if anyone's not American. It's like just the kind of randomness that we were accustomed to in part one. Also, kind of does feel like the series is coming to an end, at least part two, maybe. I'm getting that feeling. I hope not. I do hope it goes on for 10 more years. Let's see. Yoru went full Makima, everything except the braided hair. V sighing also means victory in Japan. I think it means victory in America as well. It could mean the Falling connection is destroyed. Falling is made of corpses, so maybe that's not her main body, but a medium. Yes, we talked about the Falling Devil's body a few months ago when she first reappeared. In that she really shouldn't have this body, because this body was formed when she first like attacked Asa and Yoru, where she killed a bunch of civilians and took their bodies and made like a bionicle out of it. So this head is just some random woman. In theory, if she were to reappear on Earth, she should go through the same ritual and like form another body composed of a bunch of different other people's parts. But I guess for the sake of like character design and not mess up the pacing, Fujimoto just brought back this exact same appearance. Let's see. Or was I? People take manga too deep at the end of the day, just punching ghosts. Yes. Hopefully, I do think for Fujimoto mangas, for a lot of, especially in Fire Punch, I feel like for Fujimoto, I take his internal story consistency less seriously than like I do for, say, maybe like Frieren or Naruto or whatever for most other series. Because when I first read Fire Punch, wow, it's almost like 10 years ago. When Fire Punch first came out, I feel myself and a lot of other readers were kind of just reading it for the vibes. The story didn't quite make a whole lot of sense back then, but it's like the emotional beats were there. But yes, what was I saying? Let's see. Bubba Joe says, hopefully we'll be getting some explanation from Little D onto Pochita's battle with the Four Horsemen in Hell. I feel we really need to have that explained. Yes. Well, I do feel that Fujimoto might not fully go about it, because I feel one of his strengths, especially in part one, to make the world feel a lot bigger than what he put into it, was just to keep some things vague. So I feel, and also Fami, or the Death Devil now, or Little D now, she's been very secretive about what she tells people. So there's even a chance that next chapter she just tells Denji a bunch of lies, even. This the Death Devil is by far like the biggest liar in the series so far. But yes. But I'm okay if she explains the get some backstory to their past encounter as well. Let's see. Little D, Little Death, Little Denji, Little D the rapper. Is there a rapper named Little D? I know there's a Little Dicky. I don't know if there's a D. But I'm still pretty iffy on the name Little D. I hope maybe the translator next chapter can change it to something a little more closer to Shichan. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but that's like their job. Let's see. I know it's a mistranslation, but I'm canalizing Death as Little D, and I'm imagining her throw up crypts as she says her name. With Fujimoto, she might. Fujimoto is very into American culture. It's not impossible. Let's see. The death went to Denji's self-conscious were actually taken back to the school since it showed Denji had a portion of the chainsaw out. Well, if he had a chainsaw out, I would assume that the Death Devil pulled on his cord to revive him. So last time we saw him, he had like a sword in his head and his chest. So presumably the Death Devil brought him back to the school, revived him so they can talk. Let's see. Let's see. How did he defeat Prime War Devil in Hell with nuclear weapons, but lose to Yoru, the War Fiend, with gun and tank? That's a good question. Although from the way I feel Makima described it, he maybe didn't necessarily win, but just got away. But we don't know. Because apparently he also fought the Seven Weapons Devils, although we're not sure if that happened at the same time or that was like a different fight. So a lot of ambiguity there. Let's see. Do I think Chainsaw Man will stop and announce part 3 as the USA arc, or the final battle will take place in the United States? If I have to like put my life savings, which is not that much, on if Fujimoto's gonna keep going or stop, I might say that he's gonna stop after this arc. Because honestly, it feels like he's a bit burnt out from both the art and the story. I think like a couple months after part 2 started, he just straight up said that he doesn't want to draw as much anymore. He wants to like be like Aka Akasaka, the author of Kaguya, and he was then doing Oshinoko, but he was the writer only for that. And Fujimoto kind of said that he wants to do something like that, which is to just like write and have someone else do the art. I think he went on to like do another 80 chapters of part 2 so far. So I hope he keeps going, but I do feel like he's a bit mentally spent on Chainsaw Man at least. I think maybe he might take a break in between to do more one-shots or even like a short series, like Fire Punch-ish kind of story, and then before coming back for part 3. Let's see, good point. The more scary a situation, the higher the possibility to create new devils, since people are more scared of things, creating devil weapons for you. Excellent point. Fire Punch felt like Fujimoto's trying to be deep. Chainsaw Man, not that deep. It just dumb, fun, and cool battles. I do think, I don't know about being deep, but I do feel that Chainsaw Man does have a lot to say about just commentary on society and like people and such. I think I wouldn't say part 2, but at least the start of part 2 got a lot of like real life connections to some of the stuff in the story, especially in the 90s. Because like you remember in the first half of part 2, cults were kind of a big thing. And in the 90s, cults in Japan were pretty big as well. They oh, so fun fact, actually, more side tangents. I don't know if you guys ever been to Japan, but in Japan, there's if you walk on the street, there's no trash cans. So like if you drink like a bottle of water and you finish it, you just got to hold on to it until you get home or like until you get to somewhere you can throw it away in. And the reason for that is so in the 90s there's this cult. They put bombs in trash cans and they ended up killing like between I think 20 to 30 people during their terrorist attacks. So what came of that is that the politicians there decided to just get rid of all trash cans. So that's their impact on the world. No more trash cans in Japan. But yeah, let's see. What was I? The fact that Shichon won't tell Denji she's the Death Devil, so that still make her an unreliable character. I mean, I do think that she's going to lie to Denji some more, but I don't know if she's being hiding her identity. Because, you know, she in Japan is just death, so depends on how quickly Denji catches on to that. She's not exactly being subtle there. Do you think the cape design in Yoru was a call out to early American wardrobe, only missing the part three, the not part three, three pointed hat? It could be. I I don't know. I can't remember what early Americans were off the top of my head. I did think that the her clothing was going to be more colorful than it was though, because it ended up just being like black and white over her school uniform. I was hoping for more red and blue, but doesn't seem like that's the case. Maybe the actual color version might have some red and blue, but the I don't know because Fujimoto didn't use screen tones for that scene a whole lot, so it doesn't look like it. Let's see. Let's see. Colonial design. I actually thought this. I actually can't read. I actually thought his body was missing and he was just a severed head from the chest up. Like Denji at the end. Could be, could be. Let me see the panel. No, you see his chest at the end. No. You also do see the ripcord like being pulled the panel before that. So the Death Devil definitely revived him there. Let's see, where am I? To be honest, if the story does continue beyond part 2, I think it's time for the setting to change because Japan feels quite notably dead compared to how the world felt in part 1, early part 2. Yes, yes. That's my issue with some mangas here and there in that a lot of a lot of the story kind of just take place centered in Japan, even though it's like a worldwide thing, and it's not specific to like Japan. American media does that a whole lot too, even more so. Like if you look at Marvel movies, right? You have like a whole galaxy of world. For some reason, all the strongest characters are somehow from Earth when they don't even know, like, they can't even travel to space for the most part. So that just always hit me the wrong way. And same for let me think. Another example that like pops into my head was Jujutsu Kaisen. No spoilers for that, but like at one point they were like, "Hey, you know, 99% of all sorcerers are in Japan because we the best," and I'm like, that's so much world building that's being missed out on. So now that you guys are talking about it, I do think that Denji going to America is pretty cool, pretty cool arc potentially. I always liked story plot points where like you have a character that's never been out of your hometown go travel. So I think Denji hanging out in America is could be like really fun. Let's see, where am I? Da-da. On the French version of the chapter, Death calls herself she and has an asterisk and explanation. God damn it. Why can't we be like the French? Although I will say, apparently France has like one of the maybe like either number one or number two biggest anime community outside of Japan. I learned about this through a Kaguya Want to Be Confessed to back in the day. I didn't really buy it at the time I read it. I was like, I don't know about that. But then like they had a Fujimoto art exposition in like one of their over there in France. I don't remember. It was like Lyon or Paris, and I was like, all right, France. I didn't know. I didn't know you were built like that. But yeah, I do feel on the Jump Plus, the foreign translators do a better job. Not even like from the translation itself, but just like a UI thing. Cause on I don't know for because on the Sunday chapters for Weekly Shonen Jump, the American ones, the American English versions, for double spreads, it's often cut in half if you read it like vertically. Well, I know for the Spanish versions, you can do that just fine. And it's been like 5 years. Every few months, I'll go to the Jump Plus Q&A message board to file a complaint. I'm like, please, please, please make the American version double spreads readable when I'm reading it vertically so it doesn't get cut in half. And they have ignored me for 5 years. I am very sad. Let's see, but yeah, if anyone in Jump Plus is somehow watching this, somehow come across this, please, please, please make the vertical double spreads readable. Jesus Christ, it's been so long. But yeah, anyways, where was I? Looks like Makima's public safety trench coat over Asa's school uniform. Does it? This Makima's trench coat was like a trench coat. Asa's, I mean, I can see that. When I first saw, let me see the panel. I was thinking more like a, because Asa's coat looks like a wizard coat when she wore it the first time. Like this she looks like a wizard. It's my first impression of the coat. She doesn't look very professional at all. Looks like a Sith Lord even. But yeah, let's see. There's always been a geopolitical overtone to the setting of Chainsaw Man, and I'm surprised it's taken this long to focus more on that, especially after the Reze arc and the International Assassins. Yes, yes. I think part two, for the most part, has been more Japan focused. A lot more than I thought it would. I thought it would spread to other countries a lot sooner than this. Um, but yeah, for the most part, it escalated really fast in universe time as of like the last couple of days. I don't know, because the international assassins started because the world was now aware of Denji's existence. They want Denji's heart, and they sent a couple assassins over, and then they stopped because Makima was like super powerful. But then Makima was gone, so in theory, it makes sense for them to just keep sending assassins after Denji after Makima was defeated. So yeah, so from a world building standpoint, it does. Oh, sorry, I had to burp. It would make more sense for there to be more international involvement. I'll tell you one thing I was disappointed by in terms of the world building, because when Yoshida first showed up, he went to Denji and he was like, "Hey, I work for a mysterious organization," and that organization just turns out to be the public safety sector. And I'm like, all right, you probably didn't need to hide that. I was expecting like a third party, maybe more factions for the world building aspect of things, but that didn't quite turn out how I thought it would. But yes, let's see. Brazil, France, and Spain are the biggest non-Japan anime communities. Belgium is huge, but mostly in Antwerp because of Dog Flanders boosted their tourism by 1,000%. I'll be honest, I don't know what Dog because of Dog of Flanders, or I'm not sure what that means. I'm not familiar with Belgium. The only thing I know about Belgium is that they got the sick chocolate, and apparently they invented fries, but then the French just took credit for it. Or it's probably not even the fault of the French people. I think American just give the French credit for the fries. So every time I see like a YouTube video on Belgium, it's like some guy with a fry stand talking about how much he hate France because they took their fries. But let's see. Yes, Amanda from Manga Plus, you got to do better. I don't even think it's Amanda's fault. Well, it's Amanda's fault in terms of the little D translation, but I don't think it's like the individual translator's fault to not do the honorifics. And I don't think it's their fault for like the way the English pages are uploaded, because that's the case for like every English page, every English manga. So I guess it's like they do the translations and then they have if someone else do the lettering, they send it to the person in charge of uploading it. And the person uploading it just doesn't care about people that reads vertically, and then the pages are split. Let's see, but yeah, Manga Plus, please, guys, please, y'all got to do better. I'll pay for like a 10-year subscription if I can read the vertical double spreads without cutting off. Because that's like my number one issue with current Manga Plus. I can't stand. I don't even read vertical anymore. I still can't stand it. Like it's like how do some random websites by some guy in the basement have a better UI than like the biggest manga publisher in the world? That just does not make sense. Guys, please, Manga Plus, I'm begging. But yeah, anyways, the coat reminds you of the colonial design back when America was just being founded. Very George Washington aesthetics. I don't remember what, because when I think of the colonial outfits, I think of like a blue shirt or like a blue button shirt with like a lighter color jacket, like a brown jacket, whereas Asa's jacket looked more like a black leather jacket, which is not the vision I have for early colonial outfits. Because like if you were to ask me what I think of the colonial American look like, I think of like not Kurt Angle. I think of like George Washington on the boat, like with like his jacket. I don't think Yoru is that more towards colonization America. I don't think Fujimoto was that interested in that period either, especially with the I think he has like a more focus on American globalization and like industrialization kind of period, more so than the founding of it. I think that's like the biggest thing I have towards the colonialization thing. Let's see, where was I? Dog of Flanders is an anime that took place in Belgium. ReZero makes a lot of references to the anime. Okay, I didn't know that. I thought you were making like a Simpsons reference or something. I was like, I'm not familiar with Simpsons the anime. Let's see. But Joe, I actually can't stand Yoshida or Fumiko. The amount of plot armor those two were given for no reason was infuriating to me, even more so they killed Nayuta for no payoff and got away. Yes, some of the decisions regarding Nayuta, Fumiko, and Yoshida are kind of weird. I do think my biggest thing against it is that traditionally Fujimoto has never been like if back in the day, Fujimoto, if he has a story that he wants to tell, he doesn't really hide it from you for a long period of time. You get maybe like 10 chapters and he will probably tell you what's up, what's the mystery. The only other the only exception to that is maybe like the mystery of what Makima is throughout part 1. But otherwise, if Fujimoto has something that he wants to do, he won't do like a long-term payoff. And for Fumiko, Yoshida, and Nayuta, it's like their story beats happen without really any explanation. We still don't know why there is multiple Fumikos. So it's like I can't really say if it's good or bad. I think it's something that we'll have to wait for part 2 to finish at least to make a judgment on that, but we'll see what happens with that. Let's see. So she is Death's real name, just like Nayuta Makima was Control, and Yoru is War. Well, maybe, because I don't feel like maybe the Death Devil just in my head. I feel like she has never had such a situation where she needed to share her name like that. Because I can't imagine very many people having interacted with her. Because she is the one devil out of the four horsewomen that hasn't died. So in Makima, Nayuta, and even Yoru's case, they've been killed, they've reincarnated, and therefore they might need names, whereas the Death Devil, she's never died. And also, I don't feel like that's really a name, more so like a shortened version of the Death Devil, the title. Whereas Makima, I'm sorry, Makima, Fumiko, not Fumiko, fuck. Makima Nayuta is like an actual name. Although Fami does have like her name is also a shortened version of her title too. So I don't know. We'll see. But going forward, we'll be calling her. I will not be calling her Little D. I guess I'll keep calling her the Death Devil because Shi-chan is also it's like it's not being used by the official translation. So like if I use it, people might tune in and it's like, what the hell are you talking about? I was like, I'm being accurate with what her Japanese name is called. But then people are like, oh, you try hard. But I do appreciate that she has given us a name to call her by so that she's no longer the former Fami or the I'll keep calling her the Death Devil, but my head is still calling her Fami, even like a couple weeks since the reveal that she is not. Uh, the Flasher Fami. She did flash. I feel like she didn't have to do that. She could have just told the real Fami that she couldn't die, and she could have gotten the message. But yes, I do think being the idea of like your organs inside your body being hollow, that's interesting. Because she wouldn't have any weight. She would get blown away with a gust of wind. But yeah. We actually went pretty long this week in terms of the discussion, way longer than I thought we would. I guess that's all we have for now. Um, yeah, well, there's another break next week for a bi weekly chapter. Let's see. Wait, we got one more in chat. We gotta go with Little D, so when the unknowable canon event happens, the Uber buff her and she destroys the world, we can call her Big D. I'm still apprehensive about Little D, because Little D deserve it belongs to someone else. It was the legendary Yu-Gi-Oh card Little D. They're stealing from Yu-Gi-Oh, man. Speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh, it's unironically top 10 shows of all time. I'll take no objections to that. But yeah, anyways, that's all I got for the week. Thank you guys for the chats, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.